Blessings to you. Today is January 21st, 2025. Y'all, this is like the third time I've tried to do this video because I'm struggling with it. I really am struggling with this topic. And this one, someone actually requested it for me to do this topic last year. I have thought about doing it over the years, but someone requested that I do a video on this, and I just really struggled. And it just kept coming up in my spirit. I mean, I was really struggling with this one because I struggled with this word, with this very thing for so many years. I just didn't know where to really begin with doing a video. So, like I said, I've this is like the third attempt to do this video, and what the Lord also gave me and it's about being vulnerable. Is it motivated by fear or faith? Because it makes a difference when you're being vulnerable. What is the motivation behind it? Is it motivated by fear or faith? Now, the Lord had told me to go and just kind of research the word a little bit, because sometimes you think you know what a word means, but once you go in and just kind of do a little bit more study on it, it kind of gives you a clearer and deeper understanding of what it means and how it really relates to your life. And this is kind of what the Lord did for me. As I started to just kind of briefly, and I didn't do an in-depth study, but just the things that I was, looking at, these were things that just really just jumped out at me. And I made a few notes. I don't usually do notes because I get confused with looking back and forth at the paper, but I did not want to forget these key things that just really stood out to me. So out the gate, it just really was a little negative when I started looking up the word vulnerable, and it was like, oh, this don't sound like a good thing. But then the Lord just told me to keep going. So when I first, one of the first things that I looked at as it pertains to being vulnerable is to be weak. So who wants to be weak? You know what I'm saying? When you think of yourself, you want to think that you're a strong individual, but, and listen, weak, it depends on how you look at it. Is it on the, is it tied to fear or faith? And I'm gonna go a little bit deeper into this. But to start off, it says to be weak and without protection, with the result that they're easily hurt physically or emotionally, in need of special care or support because of age or possible disability or risk of abuse or neglect, may cause criticism and judgmental comments and behavior from others. And that was just something that the Lord just kind of gave me. When you're being vulnerable, you open yourself up to be criticized and judged by people, and not always in a good way. Being open and to know it may cause rejection. That right there, when I got to that just really kind of made me pause, because rejection was probably one of the biggest things that I struggled with, like literally throughout the majority of my life, because I had to really deal with abandonment issues. Just something about being rejected. Now, some people, it's like, okay, it is what it is. We're going to keep it to moving. But for some of us, just to be rejected, that's a big thing. And it's not so much a pride thing, but it's just a feeling of not being wanted or good enough. And being rejected sometimes, it really, lower your self-esteem. So I really struggled with rejection. So doing this video on being vulnerable is a little tough for me. But I know the Lord gave it, He brought it up in my spirit for a reason. So I don't know how this video is going to go, but I want to be obedient. And most importantly, I want to be led by the Holy Spirit, because I want to help someone. This may not be as biblically based as some of the other videos, but I believe that this is essential to growth in all areas of life as it pertains to being vulnerable. And especially when the Lord showed me that what is it motivated by? Is it motivated by fear or faith? That's going to determine how you look at being vulnerable. Now, some of the other things that the Lord showed me is that on the faith sense, when you look at being vulnerable, being vulnerable means being honest with yourself and others about your feelings and who you are. Sometimes we don't want to let people know who we are. It's like we're in a shell. We kind of put up this facade that we are one way when really we're not, or we kind of present the person that we want people to think we are, and really there's something like so totally different behind the mask or behind the scene. And I lived that way as well for a long time, and I was hurting so much. And a lot of people, I thought that some people did know, some people didn't know. But I really, really put up a front for a lot of years until the Lord really, really made me deal with a lot of the demons and the issues that I was dealing with, that I was trying to cover up. So it says being honest with yourself and others about your feelings and who you are, being open or susceptible to being hurt or wounded or taken advantage of. How many times have that happened to you? That you've been wounded, that you have been hurt, that you've been taken advantage of in your vulnerable state, in your weakened state. Because remember, it says to be weak and without protection. How many times have someone preyed, P-R-E-Y, preyed on you in a vulnerable state and had taken advantage? And how many people have we taken advantage of? Let's flip it. How many people have we taken advantage of, whether we want to admit it or not, when somebody was in a weak state or a vulnerable state, and we used it to our advantage? If you really want to be honest about it. Another thing that the Lord had showed me as I was looking up being vulnerable, as it pertains to when it's being motivated by faith, surrendering to God. This one was a really, really big one to me, and this one right here helped me to understand that God was healing me in that area, and that I could be vulnerable with Him. So it says surrendering to God, knowing that God is working in your weakness. Now that's something when you can be weak and vulnerable and still see the hand of God moving in your life. And a lot of times that's where God needs us so that He can move. He needs us to be in a weakened state. He needs us to be in a state of surrender, of humility, a place of, okay, Lord, I feel so unprotected because without Him we are, so that He can come. In our weaknesses that He's made strong. And when I saw this one right here, I was like, wow, Lord, You are moving in my weakness. I can see Your hand in my weakness, in me being vulnerable. So that means that I'm operating in faith, because you have to have faith to be vulnerable with God. Another thing is being vulnerable removes us from a place of hidden darkness and pushes or ushers us into the light. A lot of times and for me, I'm just going to say for me, I went into a place of hiding. I went into a place of solitude because I was protecting myself. I had built up all of these walls to keep people out, when really what I was doing was I thought, keeping God out. and not allowing him to help me or be strong or see the hand of God in my weakness. So he had to teach me how to be vulnerable as it's being motivated by faith, because before it was motivated by fear. And it had caused me to really shut down with people. And at times I really do still struggle with that. But where God has brought me from that place of fear into faith and being vulnerable in faith, I'm seeing God move even in my weakness and me wanting to be vulnerable with him. Whereas sometimes you're vulnerable with people and they take advantage of you and they hurt you. And so you build up this wall, and this wall keeps people out, but it also keeps you in that place of darkness. It keeps you in a place of not healing. And I stayed unhealed for a very, very long time because I wasn't vulnerable, or I was vulnerable and was taken advantage of in my vulnerable state. So I put up this wall, and I wouldn't allow myself to be vulnerable for fear of rejection, for fear of being hurt, for fear of opening up and allowing people to see me. And I mean the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. And what has really helped me was the Lord ushering me out of a place of darkness into a place of light, sharing my experiences through video. And I've always been one to, talk to people. I have a lot of one-on-one conversation. I mean, this is just really have literally been my life since childhood, you all. Lord said the same. I'll be 53 in 2.5 months. Communicating with people, counsel, sharing, that's just been a part of who I've been my entire life. But I got into a place where I had shut down because of rejection, because of being hurt, because of fear, because I was looking at vulnerability in a place of fear and not faith. So as God helped me to grow and mature, and I had all these different experiences, the Lord showed me how to be vulnerable through faith or in faith because of my faith in him. And he showed me that I could be vulnerable with him even when he allows things to happen that hurt, even when he allows situations to happen that's going to break me, that's going to help me or cause me to self-reflect, and it's going to show me and show me those things about me that I don't like. Because a lot of times I was putting up this front, which I thought I was doing a good job, which I'm sure I wasn't, that I was a broken hot mess. But I was putting up this front that I was okay, that everything was good in my life. And some people, there's this saying that I say, you can fool man, but you can't fool God. And though some people were fooled by it, not many, God never was. So he had to take me to a place of being vulnerable in him through faith. And he had to take me out of fear. That comes to another thing that the Lord had me write down, is that being transparent and honest about your feelings, your thoughts, your mistakes, and your experiences. This is one of the reasons why I do the videos that I do, because I want to be transparent, as much as he would allow me to be, because I believe they help people. Because I've listened to a lot of videos, I've seen a lot of videos, and it was their transparency. It was them opening up and sharing their experiences that helped me. Them being vulnerable, even though it may have been a little scary for them, a little, they may have been a little bit fearful. It's like, okay, I'm going to open this stuff up. And for some people, they were judged, they were criticized horribly. horribly about by the things that they've shared, and I have too. And and I'm pretty sure I've criticized other people and judged that. Thank you, Lord, because I ain't gonna even sit on here and lie to y'all. I dealt with a very, very critical spirit, very critical. So yes, it was me. So being vulnerable is very, very difficult, very, very difficult. And once the Lord showed me the motivation behind it, it helped me to grow and to really look at it for what it was. Is that it's being vulnerable in the state that I was coming from a place of fear. It was coming from a place of being rejected and feeling unwanted and unloved and not good enough and being hurt and feeling that, okay, I'm in this weakened state. You feel helpless when you're vulnerable, depending on if you're coming from a place of fear or faith, you feel helpless. And honestly, there's been some times, even in my vulnerability through faith, I felt helpless. But I was being vulnerable with God. And when you're vulnerable with Him, you can, and it sounds funny saying it, you can feel helpless and safe at the same time. Helpless and safe. It's like, okay, Lord, it's like, this is all I am. This is all that I have. I don't have a backup plan. I feel helpless. I don't know which way to go. I don't know what to do, but I feel safe with you. I trust you. This vulnerable state that I'm in, I feel weak. I feel I don't have anything left. I may even feel that I'm not good enough. But I feel safe with you. I feel safe to open up with you. Listen, y'all, in my prayer times, me and the Lord, we talk about a lot of stuff. I talk to Him about a lot of stuff. And it's like I have to open up with Him. I have to be vulnerable with Him because He helps me in areas that if I'm not vulnerable, I'm just holding on to these things and I'm not growing. And I'm not maturing. And a lot of you are doing that. You don't want to be vulnerable. Or you've been vulnerable with the wrong people, with the wrong ones. Or you were vulnerable with someone and they took advantage of you. Or they hurt you. And you feel as if, okay, now I can't open up anymore. I can't, let my hair down. I can't be myself. I have to hide who I am because if they really see what's here, and that was another big thing, is that I thought that if they saw my imperfections, they wouldn't love me. Would I be too much for them? Cause y'all I can be a bit emotional. I know I'm a lot. I know I am. It takes special people to deal with me, and I know that. And I got to a place where I'm too much for them. I'm too much for them to love me. So I never really wanted to open up. But I remember the situation that the Lord had me in. And He said, lead with the vulnerable side of you because you always come with the strong Sherry. That's what they call me. Or the strong Tia. You want people to see your strength. You want them to see that you got this. You got this. But He said, no. Open up and show your weakness. Open up and be vulnerable. And you all, it was scary too. That part of me, the part that I had hidden, the part, the scared little girl, the vulnerable Tia that was operating, it was motivated by fear. And the Lord told me that I had to open up and I had to open up and be vulnerable from out the gate. That was a lot, but it helped me so much. And it helped me to get out of that shell. And God was utilizing that to usher me out of a place of darkness into light so that I could be utilized in a way that I normally would not have, or I would have been too afraid to allow Him to utilize me for His kingdom, for His glory, to help somebody else so that I can grow, so that I can mature. And then this last thing that I wrote down, and I didn't know this video was going to be 20 minutes. It said, depending on what's motivating you being vulnerable, is it going to be by faith or by fear? It also deals with trust, especially when you're dealing with being vulnerable as it pertains to your faith, doing it in the spirit of faith. You have to have trust. You have to have trust in whoever you're being vulnerable with, whomever the Lord is telling you to be. And sometimes, listen, I know it sounds a little strange, but sometimes you're going to be vulnerable to be hurt. Sometimes that lesson of being vulnerable is not for you, it's for the other person. I've learned and I've experienced, okay, but I opened up, I was vulnerable, but I was hurt by it. But then he showed me that, but my hand was in it. And even in your weakness, my strength was there to hold you up. You made it through. It wasn't so scary. So it's like, oh yeah, you know what, you're right. It didn't break me. It didn't take me back to a place of desolation. It didn't take me back to a place of isolation and solitude as it did before. Yeah, I was vulnerable and it hurt, but I'm all right. And these were things that I literally went through. It's like, Lord, but I was vulnerable and it hurt. They hurt me. Yeah, but you made it, but you all right. Sometimes he have to allow us to go through these hurts so we can get a backbone. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we're so timid and we're so fragile. It's like any little thing that happened in our life, it just break us down. And it's like put us in a place of, oh, I'm not gonna, that was me. It was just like, oh, every little thing that happened in my life, I mean, it like broke me. It took me to a place of darkness. It took me to a place of isolation. It took me to a place of solitude. It took me to a place of complete depression. It was in those moments of being broken. It was in those moments of being hurt. It was in those places of being vulnerable that I found strength. I found strength in him. Let me find this note where it says, let me find it, you all. Because I just thought it's just, when the Lord showed it to me, let me find it. Surrendering to God, being vulnerable to God, is knowing that God is working in your weaknesses. Please forgive me, y'all. I didn't mean to take that long, but I had to find it where I had it in my notes. Being vulnerable, being surrendering to God, humbling yourself, and becoming weak in Him, in His presence, and knowing that God is working in your weakness. So when you're feeling weak, just know that His hand is building you up, is strengthening you. And it's like, how can I, feel strong in my weakness? I feel terrible. Really feel terrible, feel bad, feel like giving up. But it was in those moments of weaknesses that God was working, and I may not have known it right then. And sometimes, when we're going through these things and we're in these places of being vulnerable, we don't see the hand of God. It's like, where are you? Where you at? If I could, say, excuse me, y'all, but it's like, where you at? I don't see you. I'm in a terrible place. I feel bad. I feel like giving up. I don't want to do this anymore. But you're saying I need to be vulnerable. And I feel like I've been rejected. I feel like I'm too much. I remember several weeks ago, might have been a couple weeks ago, I might have been praying, or I prayed throughout the day, but I just heard the Lord say, I'm not too much. You're not too much. And that was one of the things I really, really struggled with. I was too much. Who could love me with my emotional self? Like all over the place emotions. Like who could love? He said, you're not too much. You're not too much. You can be vulnerable. Vulnerable is such a good good attribute. It's good character about someone who could be vulnerable. But you have to make sure that it's being motivated by faith and not fear. Because when vulnerability is motivated by fear, you it's really hard to grow in that place. And it could really do the opposite depending on who you're being vulnerable with. We can be vulnerable with God. We can trust him. Even in our vulnerability, we go through and suffer some hurts. We suffer some losses. And sometimes it feels as if he's nowhere to be found. And you feel isolated and you feel alone. But when it's motivated by faith, that's the key word, by faith. Just know that he's working even in your weakness. When you're feeling at your lowest point, God is working. And you may not understand it right when it's happening, but just stay with it. Hold on to him. That's one of the things that I had to keep holding on, even when I didn't see him working. Even when it felt like he abandoned me, I still had to hold on. Was it easy? No. Were there times that I wanted to give up? Yes. Were there times that I did give up? Yes. But there were times that he picked me back up and said, now keep going. Sometimes I had to start over from the beginning. Sometimes he just allowed me to pick right back up where I was and keep it to moving. You can be vulnerable with him. You can trust him. He gave me vulnerability, being vulnerable. This was a tough one for me, but I believe that this was one that I really, God really helped me to grow in this area. Because before it was just it was motivated by fear. It was motivated by all of the hurts, all of the traumas, all of the things, the rejection, the abandonment, all of those things that I suffered and went through. Vulnerability was very, very difficult for me, and I shut down. And I became, and believe it or not, at certain points in my life, I became very hard, became mean. It was tough to be around me. I was agitated. That's just because I had put up this wall and I wasn't going to let anybody in, and I wasn't getting out. I was safe behind my little wall. All along, I was doing more damage to myself. God, excuse me, God was desiring to heal me. He was desiring to heal me, make me whole. But I had this wall built up because I was hurt, being vulnerable, trying to let my guards down, trying to let people in, got hurt. I became fearful and I withdrew. I drew back. All right, you all. Didn't mean for this video to be this long, but here we go. Listen, you all, I just pray that if you're struggling with being vulnerable, you really just take a moment and just kind of assess, is it motivated by fear or is it motivated by faith? And I pray that whatever you're going through, especially as it pertains to being vulnerable, if it's motivated by fear, I pray that God will remove that fear from your life. Because you have more to gain. You really, really have, being vulnerable with God. And I pray that he will take away that fear, those traumas, those issues. You may be feeling rejected. You may feel that you're unlovable. You may feel that you're too much. You may feel that nobody wants you. You may feel that you've made so many mistakes. Like, how could God possibly use? He can. I'm a witness. I've made so many mistakes. I've made so many left turns. I've done so many things wrong in life. It's like, Lord, you still want to use me. You still want to utilize me for your kingdom. All right, you all. God bless you. I'm praying for you. I love you. But remember, God loves you most.